I truly believe that Dahab in Sinai region of Egypt is my favorite place in the entire world. Why Dahab? What is Dahab? Where is Dahab? What is Sinai? So let's start with Sinai is this eastern part of Egypt that's actually not in North Africa, and it's actually in the westernmost part of Asia. So it's kind of across the Suez Canal where you had that, boat that was stuck, and then we have all of these trade shortages. This is why you can't get your liquor, your cars, or your washers and dryers this year quickly, all because of the, side effects of that one boat back in March or April, whatever. I was in Egypt when that happened. Let's get back to Dahab. Why Dahab? What's amazing about Dahab? What's so special that I consider it after, I don't even know, 95 countries? Why is that my favorite place? So being the only place that I truly called home in the year of 2020, it really made an impression on me. And a little bit of backstory, as I'm traveling through Egypt, as I'm, backpacking, I'm going to the pyramids, I'm going to these big temples. I mean, maybe you guys have seen, there was a new Netflix documentary about Abu Simbel in the south of Egypt and Nubia, which is, another story that I'll get to. I mean, you have a lot of good Egypt stories, but this is such a magical place because everyone was talking about it. Everyone was saying, go to Dahab. Dahab is the best place. So I naturally saved it for last. After about 6 weeks, I think, of backpacking, I finally made it there. And I couldn't have had it any better way. Let's just talk about arriving to Dahab. I got there at night. I had this $5 hostel room booked. It was a private room with a shared bathroom, but it was still a private room. So pretty good deal, right? Next thing I know, I had a friend or a friend of a friend in Dahab, and she told me that there was an open mic. So my first night there, I get off the bus, I drop my stuff off, and I start running to this open mic, which was supposed to have already started, but everything starts late in Egypt and especially in Dahab. So, I get to this open mic, and anybody who knows me knows that I love music, I love performing, I love being in front of people. This is why I'm a teacher. This is why I enjoy traveling and staying in hostels instead of paying a little bit more and having my private room, because I enjoy meeting and socializing with people. And suddenly I'm at this open mic and people are getting up there, and it was such a beautiful, sacred space where, one girl actually got up there and it was her first time ever playing ukulele the week before. And she says, I just want to share this. This is the first song that I learned. And I just thought it was so beautiful and magical that people are holding such a safe space for somebody to just be themselves and show something, whether it's some talent that they've had or worked on for years or something they've just picked up. People in Dahab were there to support you. And that's one thing that I really, really loved. And I'm going to get to that over and over again in this story. Finally, I end up doing a little bit of a freestyle. The last one, they're like, anybody else want to go? And I was like, well, I can kind of go, but then I need somebody to make a song. So I met, Sam the man. Sam Sharkey is a 60, I believe, year old Canadian Egyptian man who just plays guitar in Dahab now. He's pretty much retired and he's chilling there. And he made his first, song for me, and I made my first freestyle for the people. And that really kind of set the stage of, I'm going to be somebody who you're going to know in Dahab. And I want you to be somebody that I know. When I walk down the street and I see you, I'm going to say hi, and I want you to say hi too. And kind of, it might get a little bit annoying because I know so many people, but that's what I loved. I felt like that's where I had community, and not just community, but supportive community, people who were encouraging others to be better at whatever they were trying to be better at. So for me, it was Arabic. And at some point I started studying Russian, and people were encouraging me. People were helping me. And Dahab was just that magical place. So what does it look like? Well, I hadn't even known at that point because it was nighttime. But I was walking along the Red Sea. Now, the Red Sea is unlike any other sea because you have corals right there at the beach. Usually when you go to Mexico, any scuba diver knows this. Any person who's gone snorkeling anywhere in the world knows this. You want to go snorkeling, you need to take the boat. It's going to take you to the snorkel spot, and that's where you're going to snorkel. The Red Sea isn't like that. The Red Sea is you walk outside, you get in that water, and right there, thousands of fish. You might see turtles, you might see octopuses, octopi, I don't know. You are there. You are at the corals. And I had a lot of moments where I was screaming at people, and anybody who's with me in Dahab knows that I was saying, if you touch coral, please go to the hospital, because these things are millions of life forms trying to use you as their thing that's going to support life. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But Dahab was amazing because, well, you had that sea, you had the Red Sea, you had the ability to just go straight out there and snorkel and see turtles and do all these things on command. You didn't need to plan it. You didn't need to pay anyone. It was there. It's free. Another thing that's free is the mountains. So you're by the sea on one side, and Dahab, this tiny little town, maybe 10,000 people, I don't know. And then you have these mountains right next to it, desert mountains, not a tree in sight, which is weird. After a while, I was kind of longing for some trees at some point, but it was spectacular. Every single day was like a psychedelic experience at sunrise, sunset, and throughout the day, because you had just a plethora of colors to enjoy with good communities of people who are doing different things. You had all types of sports. I mean, of course, you had hiking and rock climbing because you have mountains, right? And so you had these longer treks that some people were doing, and there was a trekking book that people had made. And then there's diving, scuba diving, and free diving, which is one breath. And it's something that I was able to get into. And I kind of want to get on into that right now, but I'm going to finish with a few more activities that you can do in Dahab, which is also kite surfing and windsurfing, right? So you have all of these sports, not necessarily extreme sports, but you have all types of different sports, different activities for different people. And you have the range of, do you want to party all night and dance until the sun comes up? And you also have the community of people who are going to bed nice and early, rise and shining for sunrise yoga. And you have all of these communities kind of coexisting and intersecting sometimes at some events. And every day there's some sort of event. As much as it's like this slowed down life, if you want it to be, it can also be, for me, a very sped up version of life, even though I feel like I'm living the good life because I'm on the beach and I can relax every day. But I felt like there was always an event, there was always a thing that we can go to. And often they were like working on yourself. It was growing as a person, growing as a human being, so I could become a better version of myself. And that's really what freediving was. At some point, you learn how to relax, how to just calm down enough with barely any training to hold your breath for 2 minutes and go down to 10 or 20 meters. So that's 30 or 60 feet below the sea on one breath, and just sit there or stand there on the sea floor and enjoy what you're really doing. The presence, the present, the presence of the present that the present is. And it was just so beautiful. And every day I just met smiling faces, and amidst all of these coronavirus things, and we're not going to get into it, there were still some festivals in the desert. There were desert parties because you are still in Egypt. You're still in a desert, so you walk 10 minutes and you're, completely removed from society. I was taking these groups out on the hikes, and they were trusting me as their hike guide. And it just felt so incredibly like empowering, and I just felt like that was the place where I needed to be. And I will go back there. And that's why this is part of my stories this time, because instead of just doing the travel stories, this is the place that I'm going to call home. This is a place that I'm going to use as a base to encourage people like my friend Sylvia to come out and visit me, because I'm going to say, I have a place for you to stay. You don't need to worry about hotels. You don't need to worry about where you're getting around. And don't worry, they have good Russian food there too. And they have good Egyptian food there too. And they have good vegan food there too. They have everything that you need in this small little town of like 2 kilometers. You can walk everywhere. And it's quite windy. There's quite kite surfing and windsurfing. So it's very nice when you're talking about desert temperatures of 30 something degrees. And now you have a gust of wind to cool you off and make you feel a little bit better. So Dahab obviously just struck such a deep chord in my heart that I need to talk about it. And so what else is there to do in Dahab? I mean, Sylvia, my friend, my Belgian friend, who is, doing an exchange in Montreal at some point in 2012 or something, back when I was studying at the University of Montreal, a friend of mine was living in lockdown, and she saw me doing all of these things. And in a way, because I was there, because I had this base before, because I could say, you could stay at my house. And I did have a house. I had a little Bedouin house with an extra bedroom, a huge garden. Bedouin, by the way, is a people group of the desert. And essentially, they have these little houses. And I had this big garden with basil and oregano. I mean, like, I was just so at home. And you have these seatings, these basically like pillows that are on the ground, and these low tables, and maybe what you would expect for like a shisha lounge or something like that. So I'm not really sure what you're used to. But just really, really amazing. And I encouraged her. I mean, without saying anything, or I felt like I wasn't doing anything, she came to visit me. And this was a first for me, because this is what I've been doing this for. This is why I'm making toast. This is why I'm traveling. It's because I want to encourage people to push the limits of their comfort zone and do it in the most comfortable way possible. Right? You need to, seek discomfort if you watch Yes Theory, but you need to also know where your limits are, right? And so maybe Sylvia needed some sort of, security of, well, I know I'm going to go see someone, right? Maybe that's what you need. And you can come see me in Dahab. That's what I'm trying to say. Dahab was amazing because nearby you had all types of excursions. You can go diving to another place. You can go to Nueva, which is more of, I would almost say, like an Israeli settlement, more sandy beaches, less corals, and more kind of relaxing, smoking weed on the beach, and it's Egypt, it is an Islamic country. So generally you have a little bit more weed smoking and a little bit less alcohol drinking, which is good if you want to live that slower life. Not to say that you can't find alcohol. Of course you can. But I was so cool and so empowering for somebody to just come and see me, someone to fly out and visit me. And that ended up happening another time this year. And this really empowered me to tell the story of what I want to do, which is encourage people to just do it. And if I can help, reach out. Ask me where I'm going to be at the time that you want to go on vacation, and we can make it happen. Maybe I'll even change my plans and we could go do something that you want to do. Let's do it, because this is the now, and we're only getting older. Time is our only resource, and that is what's Dahab, and one breath of going down and basically entering a state of meditation as you're free diving and holding your breath and not worrying about the sake that, yeah, maybe you do want a little bit of air, but it's okay. We'll get it in 30 seconds. We'll get it in a minute from now. Push those limits. And Dahab, nearby there's this place called Abu Galoum, which is an absolute gem of a place. It's this tiny little town, which I think you can get to by car, but generally you go to this place called the Blue Hole, which is very famous for free diving and scuba diving, for amazing sights. And from there, it's a 3-hour hike. Or you could take a boat if you want. It costs about, I don't know, $5-10. And it'll bring you to this tiny town. It's not even a town. It's like a village made of straw. Not even straw. It's palm trees. There's the huts that are made of palm trees. There's like basically no electricity. There's no Wi-Fi, no reception. You are completely removed from society. And you have some of the most beautiful coral I've ever seen. And you can see all kinds of wildlife like stingrays and whatever, all over that place. And it's just so nice to slow down and maybe read a book or write a book, whatever it is that you're working on that you just haven't been taking the time to do. Abu Galoum it's 2 hours away, and it's cheap. It's everything is doable there, and you just get the time to focus on yourself. And Abu Galoum is one of those magical places near Dahab that you can go to if you want to break from Dahab, because Dahab's not slow enough, or whatever it is. Maybe you bring a whole party over there. It's just such a spectacular place. Dahab made me feel at home, and that's why it's part of my Toastcast. So, my goodness, what do you have near Dahab? And this is going to be in another story. Mount Sinai, St. Catherine in Egypt. Okay. This is where we have many holy books, many pharaohs, many prophets have been in these mountains. You have Moses, who got his 10 commandments at the top of Mount Sinai, which now they call Mount Musa or Mount Moses. Also, it's like a side name. And, you have so many different things, and that's a very different ecosystem as well from that coast. And, when you think of like a place that you want to go, there's always kind of like a push and pull of like what you want to do that's like comfortable and what you want to do that's uncomfortable. And I feel like Dahab has that mix of both, with just the perfect weather, the perfect community, the perfect price point and food diversity that you can get everything that you want. And you're so close, to an airport. Sharm el-Sheikh is an hour away, kind of like a Russian expat town, where Russians go. And so the thing that I really like the most about Dahab, which I haven't gotten to yet, is the fact that there's just all kinds of expats. There are Egyptians, there are Bedouins, which are, like I said, this people group. They're kind of like Egyptians. They consider themselves Egyptians, but they'd also say that they're Bedouins, and they would say that's an Egyptian. You know, that guy's from Cairo. I mean, Egyptians literally say I'm from Egypt, and it means Cairo. So, you know, there's kind of like a difference between the two. But Dahab is mainly expats, and it's not these expats who are there like exploiting the whole place, saying, "Oh, it's so cheap" or whatever. They're there because they want to make a change. They're trying to make a change in their lives and other people's lives. They're trying to better themselves. And it's generally, and maybe it's a little bit bad for me to say, but not Americans. And I don't think that it's a good or bad thing, but I personally prefer not Americans because, well, I like speaking all of the 7 languages that I now speak. And so if I can practice those 7 languages, one with a Brazilian and one with a Argentinian or Argentinian, as those couch surfers that I hosted would call themselves, and then I could speak with an Italian and a Russian or Ukrainian, I'm in heaven. And just these clashing of cultures. I mean, you have so many people, generally, obviously, all speaking English together, but exchanging their cultures in this place that's also a different culture from both of their cultures. So you really have this weird, amazing melting pot of cultures inside Egypt. And even inside Egypt, it's kind of like a weird region of Egypt. It's kind of like the Quebec of Egypt. You know, it's Sinai. It used to be Israel. So all I need to say is that Dahab touched my heart, and Dahab needs its own episode because I want to live there. I want to use this as a base. And my goal for the future for these podcasts and my goal for the future of my travels is to create bases for myself and for my friends, for my listeners, to have safe places that they can go to, maybe not with necessary guidebooks, but with friends of mine or friends of their own that are there, that are in place so that it can be as easy and comfortable as possible for them to just buy the flight and not need to worry about anything. Because the best way to travel has been and always will be to not plan anything. Okay, maybe have a little bit of a skeleton of your trip. You want to go to Egypt, you want to go see those large desert triangles that some people call the pyramids. Maybe that's one thing that you need to do. But it doesn't need to be the first day. It doesn't need to be the last day. It doesn't even need to be in your schedule. You know that you're going to do it, so do it. But just get the flight and leave, because at this point, it's going to be so long before you do these things if you just keep hesitating and you just need it to be the perfect trip. The perfect trip is something that you didn't plan, because that's where you have the flexibility, like in my last story, like in this story, to just go with the flow and just live in the moment and let it take you. Because the best stories, it's all of the best stories that I have on this podcast, past and upcoming, will be things that I couldn't have planned or that I didn't plan because they're impossible to plan, because they had to happen in that way. And I had to have the flexibility to be open for them to happen in that way. And Dahab was the place where I got to focus on myself. I went celibate for 2 months and I said, I'm not focusing on these other things. I'm not focusing on the pleasures of the flesh. I'm focusing on myself. And the best thing I've ever done in my entire life was in Dahab. And this is the pièce de résistance, if you will. It was creating a play. My friend asked me, do you want to be in a play? First, they put me as the main character, the main actor, and then they ended up needing a writer or director or whatever it was, and I ended up doing all of these roles, filling in all of these shoes, and this is setting the precedent for future projects of mine. And Dahab was just the most transformational experience of my entire life. So I encourage you to go there, and I encourage you to find and ask yourself the questions of what it is that you like or want in a place before you go to a place. And even if you don't know the answer to that, it doesn't mean don't go. Just go with the flow. So I hope that you have a spectacular week, day, and questions to ask yourself so that you can continue growing as I did in Dahab. And I can't wait to bring you stories about the next country that I went to after Egypt, because I'm not going to go and start talking about the pyramids now. You're going to have to wait maybe another month or so before I record those, because I want to start moving on to other countries. And I'm going to Jordan. Talk to you guys soon.